Welcome to Vampires and Mermaids. I'm Erin.
I'm Risha.
No, you're starting us off because I still don't know which of mine I'm talking about.
Oh, that's fine.
I think it'll be as Philip would call it, a game day decision.
That's totally fair because I have no idea how long this is going to be.
Perfect.
This is the one that you picked out of the little hat.
I've completely forgot which one I picked out of the little hat.
It's the Baobahn-Sith.
That's why I forgot which one I picked out of the little hat. Yep.
Well, you looked at it and you went, Sith? Like Star Wars?
Oh, God, I remember none of this. That's concerning. So not like Star Wars.
I'll talk about it. So this is a Scottish folklore. It's a female spirit, ghost, fairy, demon. Take your pick. They were all regarded as dark spirits in the 18th and 17th century. And they were also pretty much a witch who drank the blood of men.
Ah.
That's kind of what they were. The name means spirit woman. So Baobahn means spirit woman. Sith, though, means people of the mounds.
Oh.
Which is an ancient term that refers to this area in Scotland where people were believed to inhabit this area in pre-Christian pagan times, were the Sith, the people of the mounds. And the Baobahn-Sith is described a couple of different ways. One way is she's a small, dark woman with a human body and hindquarters of the goat, which is of the devil because of their eyes. But the other more common description of the Baobahn-Sith is a tall, pale woman with ice-cold breath who likes to dance in the moonlight.
Sounds like a good time.
She's almost a skeleton in some regions, wearing long flowing robes with vampire-like teeth and dancing alone in the shadows under the trees or empty hills, waiting for someone to pass by. Victims are often shepherds and herders of the Scottish hills and mountains, so they usually avoided isolated, empty moors or deserted hollows.
That's probably good advice.
And I feel like that's a pretty common thing for like Scottish and Irish folklore, especially when they talk about fairies. They're like, don't go to an empty hollow. They are also said to have some control over elements, so they could cause heavy fogs to fall. Which would disorient their victims or disorientate, whatever. They would then creep up unseen. And it was also possible that they were shapeshifters, and so they could shift into somebody that you would know.
Oh, see, that creeps me out.
Uh-huh. And a way to protect yourself against them is to use a piece of holy metal or iron, and that could protect yourself. So there is a story in the Element Encyclopedia of vampires called The Four Hunters. It speaks of 4 young hunters who didn't return home once the moon rose. You know, they like to dance under there. They lit a fire and entertained themselves. One of the hunters played music while the other 3 danced around the fire. While they were dancing, one man wished he had a female partner to dance with. Suddenly, out of the shadows, his wish was granted.
Oh, this gives siren vibes a little bit.
A little bit. 4 very beautiful women appeared. 3 of the women danced while one stood quietly by the music maker. When the musician noticed blood falling from his 3 friends, he panicked and ran away.
Yeah?
Hiding himself among the horses. The vampire was unable to claim her prey because of the iron shoes the horses wore.
The horses! It's always the horses! Okay, didn't think of the iron shoes, though.
I know, right? The angry Baobahn-Sith was eventually forced to disappear at dawn. The hunter returned to the place where he and the other hunters had taken shelter and was horrified by what he found. His friends were dead and drained of all their blood.
It kind of makes me sad that my horses would give me no protection then, because none of them have iron shoes. I have random horseshoes floating around my property, but I don't have one. None of my horses wear them. So that kind of makes me sad. I'm like, haha, I could hide in my horses. No, you can't.
Well, you're not in Scotland either, so
that's
you're
true.
Probably okay. But the word Sith has multiple origins.
Okay.
Because when you said that, I was like, I wonder where that came from. The likely one that is usually said of where Star Wars got it is from the 1914 novel, The Warlord of Mars, in which Sith refers to a type of beetle.
Oh.
It's by Edgar Rice Burroughs. But in the Scottish Gaelic, this one, it refers to a type of spirit or fairy, also the people of the mound. And Old English, it comes from the word Sithitha. It's a prepositional and adverbial phrase, and it comes from the words Sith and tham, and it means subsequently later.
Oh.
And then Anglo-Saxon, it means afterward or since. In Star Wars, the word Sith was first used in 1976. And that was for Darth Vader.
Nice.
They're an ancient order of force wielders who practice hate, deception, and greed.
I love Star Wars.
Yeah.
Oh, cool. I like it.
Yeah, but that was mine.
Well,
So that one wasn't terribly long.
It wasn't, but I also realized that my shorter one actually isn't going to be that short because I have a read screenshot of story.
But
I think I might do that one too because you had a story, and then this one also has a little folk story,
fun.
so I think it'll balance well.
Nice.
I wrote this like I'm a procrastinator. It's like Saturday. And to be fair, Philip was gone this weekend, so I had nothing else to do. And I knew that. So I kind of was like, I'm going to have a nice little cozy, like had my coffee and like some background music on. I was cozy with the dog. And even while I was writing this, I was going through, I'm like, wow, there are a lot of pronunciations I'm going to screw up. And I could look them up, but I know I won't. And I didn't. So here we are. So this is just going to be my one broad, I don't know how to say these words. And I'm sorry, but I'm not that sorry to look it up. But also, I'm going to say I'm wrong. Otherwise, I'm just going to try and say it confidently and hope it doesn't take. Because my big thing with mispronunciations is like, I'm not trying to be disrespectful, first off. This is just, second, I just don't want to take anyone out of the story because of my mispronunciations. And that is specifically a hard-hitting point for me because I started a new audiobook yesterday called The Banned Bookshop of Maggie Banks by Shauna Robinson. And it's been really freaking cute. Oh. And I really like it. And it's about this gal who basically goes and takes over her friend's bookshop for her while she's on maternity leave. But they're only allowed to sell the classics. But guess what? That's not working. And the bookshop's kind of failing. So she starts like kind of having a little like underground, like selling modern romance books and like sci-fi. And it's been really cute. I really like it. And the reason they only sell classics at this bookstore is because it's home of this famous author. And this town is like very tourist vibes, and like they all surround this famous author. So he's fictitious, he's not like a real person,
Sure,
but everything in this town is themed around this guy. You know, there's statues of him and there's a historical center about him and blah 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 blah. So the bookstore he used to work at, and so it's kind of like a shrine to him, so they don't carry anything like past his time. Yeah. Now the problem I have with this book is I'm listening to it. They don't say tourist, they say tourist. And I saw the tourist come in, and what are the tourists going to buy? And I could tell it was a tourist town, and it is driving me fucking insane. And the narrator is great. I don't even want to say it because I feel bad because I really like the narrator. I really like the book. Is that a regional thing? It must be.
Yeah.
Okay.
Definitely.
That's what I figured. I'm like, that must be
A little more south,
east,
I think.
south? Okay. Yeah. And so I just don't want this to be someone's tourist. I was making bread yesterday, and I told Philip this. And by making bread, it was in my bread maker, but I was like pouring everything in the bread maker, and I kind of like my measuring cup, and did they say tourist again? Yes, they did. Yep, they did, honey.
I will tell you an equivalent that I find here a lot is people say syrup. I'm very much a syrup person.
Oh, I'm a syrup person.
Yeah, so whenever I hear syrup, I'm like, get out of here, get down.
One of my childhood best friends' dad, he said syrup. He wouldn't say syrup or syrup. He'd just say syrup.
It's like ketchup instead of catsup.
No.
I don't like catsup.
No, catsup's wrong. I'm sorry. That's not even a regional thing. That's just incorrect. Sorry, so that's a fun little...
That's a great tangent.
I can cut that whole thing out.
No,
okay.
Fine.
So that's where I don't want this to be someone's tourist or syrup. But it's Melusine, Melusine. And she is a European piece of folklore. She's a freshwater female water spirit and typically found in either a holy water well or a holy well or a river. I don't know what a holy well necessarily is.
Isn't it just a well that's blessed or has been like helpful, and so you find out that it's been holy because, I don't know, it's
miracles and stuff?
Yeah.
All right, I'll take that.
That's my guess. I don't know.
Well, that sounds right. Typically, Melusine is depicted as a mermaid-esque creature where, you know, the top half is a beautiful female and the bottom half is something else, like a fish. Sometimes she's depicted, though, as more of a serpent tail than a fish tail.
Ooh.
And sometimes she's depicted with a serpent tail or two tails and or wings. So sometimes she's got two serpent tails and wings going on in that bottom half.
Is that almost like a gorgon?
I don't know what that is.
Gorgon, like Medusa.
Oh, maybe. I don't know. Is that what Medusa looks like on the bottom?
Yeah, in some tales.
Let's see here. She is mostly connected, or her lore is mostly connected to North and Western France, Luxembourg, and the Low Countries, which basically just said like southern regions of France. So I'm like basically just not Eastern France. The lore says that a lot of leaders and dynasties between the 1200s and the 1400s are descended from Melusine. I didn't feel like going into each one. They listed a bunch of different, like this dynasty from this, and just in general, these are the lores. There's some etymology.
Yay.
Yes. So the etymology likely originated from French melus, meaning melodious or pleasant. Oh. Also could have been inspired by a Poitevin, regional French, legend of Melusine, or Lucine, who was the leader of a band of fairies who built Roman edifices throughout the countryside. So yeah, I kind of feel like that tied into your fairies and lore spiritual. Yeah. So the literary version is definitely the most famous tale of Melusine. So there are a lot of different versions, a lot of different ones. We're going to talk about the most famous one. This tale was part of a compilation of tales by Jean d'Arras. He compiled these tales between 1382 and 1394. It was then translated into German in 1456 by Thuring von Ringeltingen, which I giggled even when I wrote it. Ringeltingen. And became a popular chapbook, which a chapbook is basically a short, cheap booklet.
That's nice.
Right? And that's when it got really popular. It obviously was translated to a bunch of other languages after that. I didn't feel the need to write all those down. So the story tells how in the time of the Crusades, Linus, the king of Albany, an old name for Scotland or the kingdom of Alba, goes out hunting in the forest to cope with the death of his wife, with whom he has had one son named Nathus. Linus comes across the Well of Thirst, where he meets a beautiful fae named Pressine. The two fall in love when Elias proposes to Pressine, she agrees, but only if he swears to never see her when she births or bathes her children. Linus promises, and he and Pressine marry. Later, Pressine gives birth to triplet girls, right, named Melusine, Malor, and Palatine. When Nathus informs his father the news, he breaks his promise, causing Pressine to leave the kingdom with their 3 daughters and move to the lost Isle of Avalon.
Wait, how'd he break his promise?
I think he busted in and saw her birthing these kids.
Oh.
Yeah.
I was like, he told him, so he broke his
promise.
Right,
I know.
Wait,
it's
what?
kind of vague. But yeah, I think he busted in and saw her birthing the kids or the afterbirth or something, and she was not happy. The 3 sisters grew up in Avalon, their mother bringing them atop a mountain every morning to look at the kingdom that would have been their home. On their 15th birthday, Melusine, the eldest, asks their mother why she and her sisters have been taken from Alba. Upon hearing of their father's broken promise, Melusine seeks revenge and convinces her sisters to aid her, unlocking their magical powers.
Holy buckets. Okay, oldest by 2 minutes.
Right. Linus' daughters lock him with his riches in a mountain called Brandelos. Pressine becomes enraged when she learns that her daughters have done this, for despite breaking his promise, Linus was her husband and the triplets' father. To punish her daughters for killing their own father, Pressine imprisons Palatine in the same mountain as Linus, seals Malor inside a castle for all of her life, and banishes Melusine, the instigator, from Avalon, and also cursing her to take the form of a 2-tailed serpent from the waist down every Saturday. If a man ever marries Melusine, he must never see her on Saturdays. If he keeps the oath, Melusine will live a contented life with him, but if he breaks it and violates her privacy, she will stay a serpent and appear to the noble house in her monstrous form and spend 3 days lamenting whenever a descendant dies or the fortress changes hands. Now, I just want to say, I feel like, honestly, hers isn't that bad.
Nah.
Everyone else, you're going to go get locked in a mountain, but you, the instigator, you're going to look funky on Saturdays and your husband can't see it. It's seems a little unfair, but whatever. Melusine settles in a forest of columbiners. The distraught Count Raymondin of Porters comes across Melusine after accidentally killing his uncle. There's a lot going on in this story. Yikes. Melusine consoles Raymondin, and when he proposes to her, she lays down a condition just as her mother had done, that he must never see her on a Saturday. For 10 years, Raymondin keeps his promise, and Melusine bears him 10 sons. 10. That's too many kids.
Were any of them like twins or triplets, do we know?
Nope, doesn't. Just 10 sons, which some versions describe as being deformed yet still loved by their parents.
Oh.
Don't know what that... I don't know if they also had some serpent tails, and she was just like, don't worry about it, honey.
Like, got scales and gills.
Right. I don't know. But they were still loved, so that's good. And organizes the construction of marvelous castles, giving her husband wealth, land, and power. However, Raimondin is eventually goaded by his family and grows suspicious of Melusine, always spending Saturdays by herself and never attending mass. He breaks his promise and peeks into her chamber where he sees Melusine bathing in half-serpent form. He keeps his transgression a secret until one of their now adult sons murders his brother in front of the court. The grieving Raimondin blames Melusine and calls her a serpent. She then assumes the form of a dragon, provides him with 2 magical rings, and flies off never to be seen again. She returns only at night to nurse her 2 youngest children who are still infants.
Oh my gosh, suddenly dragon.
It is the most chaotic story.
Well, they did say magical powers, so I guess that's maybe the shape-shifting.
Yeah?
Yikes. I was thinking some of the H2O when she's bathing in like half-tail form.
Yes.
Like, no.
Yes, I think in Aquamarine there's also that scene too when because the other girl like jumps in, like puts her legs out.
Yep.
Yes. Yep. I think that's also in Splash, the 80s movie.
Yep.
Which we did cover. You haven't
did.
listened to that episode already. That was a fun one.
Yeah.
Was that young Tom Hanks?
Yes.
Ugh. So anyway, that's Melusine, or however you want to say it, and her story of multiple murders.
I feel like it reminds me either of like King Arthur and all of the different lore with that, or like Robin Hood and all of the different like plot twists that happen in a lot of those tales.
That honestly reminded me of Shrek. So I feel like this really explains our background well. You're like, yes, like Sir Arthur. I'm like, I thought Shrek because she looked funky and there's a dragon at the end. That's all I have on Melusine that I stumbled through, but it was fun. Do you have anything you'd like to add about our fairies and folklore?
No, I like the fairies and folklore, though. One thing I will talk about is that if you read with us Interview with a Vampire, that's out. But we are going to be reading a mermaid book.
I was going to say, do you have it with you? Thank God. I did actually order and receive my copy. So.
Nice. I do have it. Yeah. Water, Book 1. Ascension. Her destiny will soon be revealed by Kara Dalkey.
Go ahead and follow, like, and subscribe wherever. Like and subscribe wherever you listen. Follow us on Instagram, vamps_mers. And you can email us vamps with the and spelled out mers @gmail.com with any questions, comments, or ideas that you'd like us to cover.
Woohoo.
Woo! Stay thirsty and keep wet.
Cover your necks and watch your tails.
Obscurantism and obfuscation.
Orally observed, gentle listener.
Gentle listener.
Gentle listener.
Gentle listener.
Obviated objects of oblivion.
Obambulating about.
Offered unto you.
Offered unto you.
Offered unto you.
In the Tapestry Radio Network.
TapestryRadio.org.
From our fancy to yours.